Istanbul is a city written over itself, a sprawling palimpsest where successive empires constructed their legacies directly on the ruins of those they conquered. And piercing through the morning mist, anchoring those overlapping histories, is the Galata Tower. Today, it's widely regarded as a romantic observation deck. Yet these stone walls were originally engineered for the grim reality of 14th century defensive survival. This massive fortress managed to endure centuries of devastating fires, massive seismic shifts, and conquering armies who usually leveled the symbols of their enemies. Its presence suggests that endurance across millennia requires more than thick stone. It requires an architecture capable of constant, radical adaptation. The structure we see today began in 1348. The Genoese trading colony built it to replace an earlier 6th century Byzantine wooden beacon that had been destroyed. Named the Tower of Christ, it anchored a fortified wall system defending their enclave. Looking at these colored zoning sections, we see how this perimeter allowed the Genoese an iron grip on maritime trade along the Golden Horn, operating a commercial monopoly. To protect that monopoly, they engineered an absolute fortress. The Romanesque structure stands 67 meters tall with a solid cylindrical base. When we look at a cross-section, the sheer mass of the building becomes clear. The outer rubble stone walls are almost 4 meters thick, 3.75 meters to be exact, leaving a narrow inner diameter of just under 9 meters. The Genoese built something so imposing and strategically vital that when Constantinople eventually fell, the new conquerors found it too valuable to destroy. In 1453, the city fell to the Ottoman Empire. Instead of raising this symbol of foreign power, Sultan Mehmed II accepted the keys to the colony and claimed the tower intact. The Ottomans immediately repurposed the stone walls for internal control. By the 16th century, the former defensive keep was a dungeon, holding Christian prisoners of war and laborers from the nearby Qasim Pasha shipyards. But the building's function shifted again in the 1570s. Sultan Murad III realized that the highest point in the city shouldn't be looking down into a prison, it should be looking up. The Sultan established an observatory at the very top. Under the astronomer Taqiyuddin, scholars used advanced measuring tools to map the heavens, turning a military bastion into a center for celestial research. In a few short decades, the Ottomans had completely rewritten the tower's relationship with Istanbul, turning its gaze from the horizon toward the stars. Down on the ground, the imperial capital faced a persistent threat. Istanbul was a densely packed city of wood, and devastating fires were a constant reality. To combat this, the tower transitioned into a dedicated fire watchtower. Guards stationed at the top scanned the city for smoke and coordinated visual signals to fire brigades across the Golden Horn. Standing watch took a heavy toll. Over the 18th and 19th centuries, the tower was repeatedly gutted by the very blazes it was meant to spot, losing and regaining its iconic conical roof multiple times. As its military relevance faded, the tower's height began to inspire local folklore. The most famous story claims that in 1632, a scientist named Hezarfen Ahmed Chelebi, strapped on handmade wings, leaped from the top floor and glided across the Bosphorus to Üsküdar. By absorbing these myths and surviving these fires, the tower's identity shifted. It was no longer a distant foreign bastion, but an essential character in the story of Turkish Istanbul. That evolution reached its current stage in 2020, following a restoration that transformed the entire structure into a museum. Today, on the 8th floor observation deck, you share the exact 360-degree vantage point Byzantine emperors, Ottoman astronomers, and fire watchers utilized. Looking at the maritime trade flowing through the Golden Horn, it's clear this building is a stone catalog of 1,500 years of human endeavor. It is the architectural palimpsest in its final form, Genoese rubble stone foundations wrapped around Byzantine ruins, modified by Ottoman engineering, and held together by modern preservation. The Galata Tower proves that the world's most enduring monuments don't survive by resisting the passage of time. They survive by standing still and allowing the empires beneath them to